The fluorescent lights in Davidson County Civil Courtroom 4B were the kind of cold white that made everything look like a crime scene. I sat on the defendant's bench, back straight as the pews at Greater Hope Baptist Church, where I'd spent 63 years learning to carry myself with dignity. Navy blazer, mama's pearl necklace, hair pulled back in a silver bun that took me 40 minutes to get right because my hands wouldn't stop shaking at 5 a.m. Not from fear, though. From something else. Something that felt like the moment before a storm breaks and you finally get to breathe again. 10 yards ahead, my daughter Keisha sat at the plaintiff's table in a black Tahari suit that probably cost more than my monthly pension. Her hair was pressed bone straight, laid with edges so sharp they could cut. She had her phone out, scrolling, occasionally whispering to that $500 an hour lawyer beside her. Not once, not one single time, did she turn around to look at me. Her mama. The woman who'd pushed for 19 hours to bring her into this world, who'd rocked her through colic and croup and every heartbreak from kindergarten through her first divorce. The woman she was now suing for $67,000. The charge? Elder financial abuse. According to the complaint her lawyer filed, I had systematically misappropriated funds from the Amara Williams Education Trust and showed clear signs of diminished mental capacity requiring immediate intervention and asset protection. In plain English, they were saying I stole my own grandbaby's college money because I was too old and confused to know better. The bailiff called, "All rise for the Honorable Judge Patricia Mendoza." I stood. My knees popped. Arthritis I'd earned from 38 years standing in front of fourth-grade classrooms. But I stood straight. Keisha stood too, smoothing her skirt like she was at a business meeting. Like her mama wasn't sitting 12 feet behind her, heart cracking down the middle. Judge Mendoza was a small Latina woman with steel gray hair and reading glasses on a chain. She looked at both tables with the kind of expression that said she'd seen every variety of human foolishness and wasn't impressed by any of it. "Be seated," she said. "Let's get started." I reached into my purse, the cognac-colored leather tote that was older than Keisha but still good because I took care of my things, and my fingers brushed against something small and hard. A red USB drive. 47 audio files. Evidence Keisha didn't know existed. I wasn't afraid anymore, because I had something they didn't expect. My name is Rosalind Mae Thompson, born April 12, 1963, at John Gaston Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, to James and Coretta Freeman. Second of 5 children, all of us raised in a shotgun house on Mississippi Boulevard where the walls were thin, but the love was thick. Daddy was Reverend James Freeman of Mount Moriah Baptist Church. Mama was Nurse Coretta, worked the colored ward at the hospital back when they still called it that. We grew up watching both of them give everything they had to people who had nothing. Daddy's salary was modest, but he'd give his last dollar to a family who couldn't pay their light bill. Mama worked double shifts so we could have shoes without holes and coats for winter. Every Sunday night, without fail, Mama made red beans and rice. It was her stretch-the-dollar meal. Cheap, filling, made enough to feed all 7 of us, plus whoever from church needed a plate. She'd serve it up in her good china like it was a feast, and she'd say, "Baby, money is love made visible, but love ain't transactional. You give because you got a heart that beats, not because you expect something back." I carried those words with me through everything that came after. I married Robert Thompson in 1985. He was a postal worker, steady as sunrise, with a smile that could light up a room and hands that could fix anything. We had one child, Keisha Marie, born February 3, 1988. Robert used to hold her on his chest and say, "Rosie, we made something perfect." He died in 2007, pancreatic cancer, 52 years old. The life insurance paid out $180,000. I put it in a savings account and never touched it. That money felt sacred somehow, like Robert's last gift, his last way of taking care of us. I lived on my teacher's pension, $2,100 a month, and substitute teaching when they needed me. I didn't need much. The house was paid off. My needs were small. What mattered was making sure Keisha never struggled the way we did. The relationship before the break, Keisha was brilliant. Graduated Fisk University in 2010 with a degree in marketing. Beautiful, confident, the kind of daughter who made you proud just walking into a room. She married Jamal Williams in 2012, a software engineer who seemed solid, seemed like he had a good head on his shoulders. They had 2 babies, Amara in 2006, before they married, but I never judged, and Isaiah in 2014. I remember the day Keisha was 7 years old. She'd been begging for piano lessons because her best friend Shanice had a piano, and Keisha wanted to play like the lady at church. I saved for 11 months, took extra summer school classes, put aside $10 here, $20 there. In December 1995, I surprised her with a Baldwin upright piano, used, but I'd had it tuned and polished until it gleamed. She cried. Real tears, the kind children cry when they don't know how to hold joy. She threw her arms around me and said, "Mama, I'm going to make you so proud, I promise." That piano sits in their garage now, under a tarp, dusty and forgotten. But I remembered. I always remembered. From 2010 to 2024, 14 years, I gave them $28,000 for their down payment when they bought the house on Crestview Drive. Keisha called me crying, said they were short and the seller wouldn't wait. I transferred it the same day. $22,000 for Amara's private school tuition at Nashville Christian Academy. The public schools aren't good enough, Mama. You want your grandbaby getting a second-rate education? $450 every single month for 4 years. That's $21,600 for what Keisha called activity fees. Soccer, swimming, art camp, dance recitals. Things she said they just couldn't quite cover. $12,000 in what she called emergency loans. Car repairs when Jamal's truck broke down. The heating bill for 3 months when he was between jobs. Groceries? Always groceries, because feeding 2 growing kids is so expensive, Mama. Add the $4,000 trip to Cancun. I paid for their 10th anniversary because we really need this, Mama. We're drowning. $83,600. There was never a contract, never any paperwork. Just a daughter calling her Mama, and a mama who couldn't say no because saying no felt like failing at the one job that mattered most. Every time Keisha would say, "I'll pay you back, Mama," or "Don't worry, when things turn around, we'll take care of you." Or my personal favorite, "You know we're going to be the ones looking after you when you're old, right? This is just us taking care of family." I believed her. Lord help me, I believed her every single time. The breaking point. My older sister Loretta died on March 9th, 2024. She was 68 years old. We talked on the phone that Sunday after church, laughing about something stupid our cousin had posted on Facebook. By Tuesday morning, she was gone. Massive stroke in her sleep. The kind of death they call merciful because it's quick, but it sure doesn't feel merciful when you're the one left behind. Loretta was the person I called when Robert died. She held my hand through the whole funeral, sat with me in the dark nights after, when I thought I might lose my mind from grief. She called me every Sunday for 42 years. Every single Sunday. The funeral was scheduled for Saturday, March 16th at Greater Hope Baptist, followed by a reception at her house. Keisha called me Tuesday evening. "No, hi, Mama. No, how are you holding up? Just, Mom, I need you Saturday." My chest went tight. "Baby, I can't this Saturday. It's Aunt Loretta's funeral." Silence, then, "Can't you just go to the service and come back? It's not like she'll know the difference. Jamal and I have the investor pitch in Atlanta. We've had it planned for months." I gripped my kitchen counter so hard my knuckles went pale. "Keisha, it's my sister. My only sister. And I'm your only daughter. But I guess a dead woman matters more than your living family. Isaiah needs you, Mom. He only behaves for you. Jamal's parents are useless." "Keisha, whatever. I guess I know where I stand now. Good to know." She hung up. I stood in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd made her breakfast before school for 13 years, the same kitchen where I'd taught her to make Mama's red beans and rice, and I stared at Loretta's picture on my refrigerator, the one from her 70th birthday party last year, before any of us knew a blood clot was ticking like a time bomb in her brain. I thought that would be the end of it, a fight we'd smooth over after the funeral when emotions calmed down. I was wrong. Sunday, March 17th, I went to Keisha's house. I'd been going every Sunday for 14 years. I had my own key. "Just in case, Mama, your family, you should always be able to get in." My key didn't work. I stood on that porch, the porch I'd helped paint sage green because Keisha wanted it to pop, and tried my key 3 times. Tried the back door, knocked, rang the bell. I could hear the TV inside. Someone laughed. Nobody came. I sat in my Mercury Grand Marquis, Robert's car, the one I kept because it smelled like him sometimes, and I waited. 20 minutes, 30. Finally, I drove home. At 9:47 p.m., my email dinged. From Nelson & Associates Legal Counsel, re-notice of civil action number 2024-CV-8842 Ms. Rosalind Thompson, you are hereby notified that you are named as defendant in a civil lawsuit filed by Keisha Thompson Williams regarding misappropriation of funds totaling $67,000 from the Amara Williams Education Trust Fund. You are required to appear in Davidson County Civil Court on June 14, 2024, at 9 a.m. Failure to appear will result in default judgment. I read it 3 times. $67,000. That was the exact amount I'd transferred into the trust fund for Amara in 2018. Robert's life insurance money. The last piece of him I had left. I'd put it in Amara's name with Keisha as trustee because I wanted my grandbaby to have options I never had. College. A future. And now Keisha was suing me for stealing it? I didn't sleep that night. I walked through my house, touching things. Amara's school picture from 3rd grade. The macaroni frame Isaiah made me for Christmas. The quilt Loretta and I made together the summer before Robert died. 63 years of being a good daughter, a good wife, a good mother, a good grandmother, and one funeral attendance had reduced me to this. Why I chose to fight. I tried calling Keisha 40 times over the next week. Every call went straight to voicemail. I texted, "Baby, please, can we talk about this?" No response. I drove to the house, my $28,000 down payment house, and knocked. Jamal answered, blocked the doorway. "Rosaline, Keisha doesn't want to see you right now. You need to respect that." "I just want to understand. You need to leave before I call the police for trespassing." I left. I texted Amara. "Sweetness, it's Grandma. I miss you. Can we talk?" She responded, "Mom showed me the bank statements. How could you steal from me? I trusted you. That one broke something in me I didn't know could break." I went to Reverend Bernard Hayes. I'd known him since he was an assistant pastor 30 years ago. Sat in his office and told him everything. He listened, hands folded, eyes sad. "Sister Rosaline," he said finally, "sometimes you gotta let Caesar render unto Caesar. This ain't a family matter no more. This is legal, and you need legal help." My friend Yvonne from Grief Support Group said it even plainer. "Rosie, you spent your whole life making yourself small so Keisha could be big. What if you stopped shrinking?" On April 1st, 2024, I called Diane Porter. She was the only black female attorney in Davidson County. Her office was a small second-floor walk-up on Main Street with a bronze plaque that said Porter Law, Justice Without Apology. I walked in and said, "My daughter is suing me for money I never took, and I'm ready to fight back." Diane's office smelled like old books and strong coffee. She was 52, natural hair cut close, gold-rimmed glasses, a handshake that meant business. "Mrs. Thompson," she said, gesturing to a chair, "elder financial abuse cases are hard to defend. Juries tend to assume the child is protecting their inheritance and the parent is confused. We're fighting uphill." I reached into my tote and pulled out 3 accordion folders. I brought documentation, bank statements, every single one from 2010 to 2024, 147 receipts for transfers to Keisha, copies of every check, the trust fund agreement from 2018 with Keisha's signature as trustee. Diane went through them slowly, turning pages, making notes. 20 minutes passed in silence except for the scratch of her pen. Finally, she looked up. "Mrs. Thompson, did Keisha ever thank you for any of this?" "She said she'd take care of me when I was old." "That's not a thank you." Diane pulled up the trust fund account on her laptop, typed, scrolled. Her eyebrows went up. "Mrs. Thompson, the $67,000 isn't missing." My heart stopped. "What?" "It's still in the account, but there are 15 withdrawal transactions over the past 2 years. 3,000 here, 5,000 there, 8,000, all authorized by Keisha Thompson Williams as trustee, all transferred to an account in her name." The room tilted. "She's suing you," Diane said slowly, "for money that she took." I couldn't speak. I literally could not make words come out. Diane leaned back. "This is Darvo. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. She took the money, and now she's accusing you to cover her tracks. If she can get a judgment saying you're mentally incompetent, she can claim she was protecting the account from you. It's sick, but it's not uncommon. Can we prove it?" "We can, but she's going to fight dirty. Her lawyer already sent a settlement offer." She slid a paper across the desk. Thompson Williams willing to drop all charges in exchange for 1. Payment of $30,000. 2. Signed affidavit relinquishing all grandparent visitation rights. 3. Statement acknowledging mental incompetence. I read it twice. "What do you want to do?" Diane asked. I thought about Amara's text. How could you steal from me? I thought about that piano under the tarp. I thought about Mama saying love ain't transactional. I want my day in court. April through May was a blur of preparation. Diane had me write everything down. Every conversation I could remember. Every promise Keisha made. Every time she said just this once, or I'll pay you back. And that's when I remembered. Starting in 2022, every time Keisha called asking for money, I'd started recording the calls. Not to trap her. I swear it wasn't that. It was because I kept forgetting details. Doctor said it was stress, but I was scared it was something worse, so I used the voice memo app on my iPhone to record conversations so I could listen back and remember what we'd agreed to. 47 recordings. I transferred them to a USB drive and brought them to Diane. She listened to the first one, then the second. By the fifth, her eyes were bright. "Mrs. Thompson, Tennessee is a one-party consent state. You were part of these conversations. These recordings are completely legal and admissible in court." "What's in them?" Keisha admitting she took money from the trust fund. Keisha saying you owe her. Keisha threatening to keep the grandkids away if you don't pay. This is gold. My hands shook. If I use these, she'll know I recorded her. Yes. She'll never forgive me. Diane's voice was gentle. Rosie, she sued you. She changed the locks. She's already chosen a side. The church had mixed reactions. Reverend Hayes supported me, but worried. "That's your baby, Sister Rosie? You sure you want to do this in public?" Some of the church mothers whispered. I heard Miss Alberta say, "Maybe Rosalind is getting confused. My sister got like that at 60. But Yvonne stood firm. "Rosie, blood don't mean they get to bleed you dry. You fight." 2 nights before the trial, my phone rang at 2 a.m. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. "Grandma? Amara, baby, is that you?" Her voice was shaking. "I found something. In Mom's desk. Bank statements. Grandma, you didn't steal my college money. You put it there, and Mom took it out. She lied to me." I couldn't breathe. "I'm testifying," Amara said. "For you, not her." "Baby, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. Because if I don't, I'm just like her, and I won't be." June 14th, 2024. 6:15 a.m. I stayed at Yvonne's house the night before. Couldn't stand to be alone. Woke up before dawn, put on Mama's navy blazer, the one she wore for church and funerals, and the pearl necklace that was the only jewelry she ever owned. Yvonne made me eggs. I couldn't eat. "You look strong," she said. "I feel like I'm about to throw up." That's how you know it matters. I drove to the courthouse in Roberts Mercury. It needed an oil change, and the AC didn't work great, but it was mine and it was paid for, and that felt important somehow. I parked 3 rows from the entrance. That's when I saw her. Keisha, getting out of a white Audi Q5. Hair perfect. Suit perfect. Laughing at something on her phone. Laughing. Our eyes met across the parking lot. Hers flickered, something I couldn't read. Then she looked away and kept walking. Like I was a stranger. Like she hadn't spent 9 months in my body and 20 years in my house. I gathered my purse, my folders, my evidence. Walked into that courthouse with my head high. Diane met me at the security checkpoint. "You ready?" I touched the USB drive in my purse. I've been ready my whole life. We walked into courtroom 4B together. And that's where this story really begins. Malcolm Green rose from the plaintiff's table like a man preparing to deliver a eulogy. He was 60 years old, white, with silver hair swept back and a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my monthly pension. Everything about him said money, power, control. He buttoned his jacket and walked toward the jury box with the kind of slow, measured steps designed to make you pay attention. "Your Honor, members of the jury," he began, his voice rich with manufactured sadness. "This is one of the most painful cases I've ever had the privilege, and the burden, of bringing before this court." I sat perfectly still. Diane had coached me. Don't react. Let your face be stone. They want you to look angry or confused. Give them nothing. "My client, Ms. Keisha Thompson Williams is a devoted daughter, a loving mother, a woman who has spent her entire adult life trying to care for her aging mother while raising 2 children and building a career. He gestured toward Keisha, who dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. She trusted her mother, as any good daughter would, with the most precious thing she had, her daughter's future. Malcolm paced slowly, letting that sink in. In 2018, Mrs. Rosaline Thompson convinced my client to place $67,000, money meant for young Amara's college education, into a trust fund. Mrs. Thompson insisted she could manage it better, that she knew about investments and savings, that she would protect it. He paused for effect. Over the next 2 years, Mrs. Thompson systematically withdrew that money, $3,000 here, $5,000 there. When confronted, she became hostile, defensive. She accused my client of being ungrateful, of abandoning her. She made wild claims about being owed money for past gifts freely given, Your Honor, not loans. I dug my fingernails into my palm. Gifts freely given, like the $28,000 for their house down payment was just pocket change I threw around. We will present medical evidence showing that Mrs. Thompson suffers from early-stage dementia, memory loss, confusion, paranoia. The very symptoms that make elder financial abuse so tragic, because the person committing the abuse often doesn't even understand what they're doing. A female juror in the front row, white woman, maybe 45, nodded sympathetically. My client is not here for revenge, Malcolm said, his voice dropping to something almost tender. She's here because she loves her mother, because she wants to protect her mother from herself, because the kindest thing we can do for someone who's lost their way is to help them find it again, even if they fight us every step. He turned to face me directly for the first time. Mrs. Thompson is not a criminal. She's a sick woman who needs help, and my client is asking this court to provide that help before it's too late. He sat down. Keisha reached over and squeezed his hand, mouthing thank you. Judge Mendoza looked at Diane. Miss Porter, you're opening? Diane stood. She didn't button her jacket or pace dramatically. She just stood at her table and spoke clearly. Your Honor, members of the jury, my client is a retired school teacher who spent 38 years educating children in this county. She has a master's degree in education administration, which she completed at age 56 with a 3.9 GPA. She has managed the treasury for Greater Hope Baptist Church for 18 years without a single discrepancy in a $400,000 annual budget. Diane picked up a folder. The $67,000 in question? It didn't disappear. It's still in the trust fund account, but it was withdrawn 15 times by the plaintiff, Keisha Thompson Williams, who had sole authority as trustee. Not by Mrs. Thompson, by her daughter. Malcolm started to rise. Diane kept going. This is not a case about a confused elderly woman. This is a case about a daughter who took money meant for her own child and is now trying to blame her mother to cover her tracks. The evidence will show that, and it will show something else. A pattern of financial exploitation going back 14 years. We will prove who the real victim is in this courtroom. And it's not the woman in the expensive suit crying crocodile tears. Judge Mendoza raised an eyebrow. Ms. Porter, keep the editorializing to a minimum. Yes, Your Honor. Diane sat down. Under the table, she touched my hand briefly. We got this, her eyes said. I wished I believed her. Malcolm called Jamal to the stand first. Strategic, get the son-in-law to establish the confused elder narrative before bringing in experts. Jamal wore a gray suit and a purple tie. He looked nervous, kept adjusting his collar. When he sat down in the witness box, he wouldn't look at me. Malcolm approached with a gentle smile. Mr. Williams, how long have you known Mrs. Thompson? 14 years, since Keisha and I started dating in 2010. And what was your relationship like with her? Good. Real good. She was always kind to me, welcoming, treated me like family from day one. When did that relationship change? Jamal shifted in his seat. Around 2022, maybe early 2023, she started acting different. Can you describe how? Forgetful. She'd call and ask the same question 3 times in one conversation. She forgot Amara's birthday twice, and that's her grandbaby she helped raise. One time she showed up at our house at 10 at night convinced she was supposed to be babysitting, but we hadn't asked her to. 2 jurors wrote notes. Did her behavior ever become concerning? Hostile? Yes, sir. This past March, she called Keisha screaming about money, said we'd stolen from her, said if we didn't return what was owed, She'd make sure everyone knew what kind of daughter Keisha really was. My wife was terrified. Terrified of her own mother? Yes, sir. It wasn't the mama she knew anymore. I wanted to stand up and scream. I called because you had stolen from me. You took money meant for your daughter's future and spent it on God knows what. Diane rose for cross-examination. Her voice was calm, almost pleasant. Mr. Williams, you're a software engineer at TechBridge Solutions, is that correct? Yes, ma'am. What's your annual salary? Malcolm objected. Relevance, Your Honor? I'm establishing financial context, Diane said. Goes to motive. I'll allow it. Answer the question, Mr. Williams. Jamal hesitated. Around $147,000. And your wife Keisha works in pharmaceutical sales? Yes. Making approximately $85,000 annually? Something like that. Diane picked up a document. So your household income is roughly $232,000 per year. Yet between 2020 and 2024, you accepted $450 per month. That's $5,400 per year from a woman living on a pension of $2,100 per month. That's correct? She offered. I asked if it was correct, Mr. Williams. Yes. Why does a family earning $250,000 need financial assistance from a retired teacher making $25,000 a year? We had expenses. Kids are expensive. Diane nodded slowly. Let's talk about expenses. Are you aware that this court has subpoenaed your financial records? Jamal's face went pale. What? She pulled out another document. Bank records show that in 2023 alone, you withdrew $8,000 in cash at Cherokee That's in addition to credit card charges at the same location totaling $12,000. Mr. Williams, do you have a gambling problem? Malcolm shot up. Objection. This is character assassination. Your Honor, the plaintiff claimed they needed Mrs. Thompson's money for children's activities. I'm showing where the money actually went. I'll allow it, but tread carefully, Ms. Porter. Diane turned back to Jamal. Do you have a gambling problem, Mr. Williams? I went a few times. It wasn't a problem. $20,000 in 1 year at a casino, while taking money from your 63-year-old mother-in-law to supposedly pay for your children's swimming lessons. Does that sound like not a problem to you? We paid it back. You paid the casino back. Did you ever pay Mrs. Thompson back? Silence. I'll take that as a no. No further questions. Jamal stepped down, looking like he'd been hit by a truck. Keisha stared straight ahead, jaw tight. Two jurors, the older black woman and a Latino man in his 50s, exchanged glances. The tide was shifting, just a little, but it was shifting. Judge Mendoza called for a 90-minute lunch break. Diane and I walked to a small deli 2 blocks from the courthouse. I couldn't eat. I ordered chicken soup and stirred it in circles. You're doing great, Diane said. The jury saw Jamal squirm. They're starting to question the narrative. Keisha walked right past me in the hallway, I said quietly. Looked through me like I was glass. I know this is hard, Rosie, but we're not even to the good part yet. I pulled the red USB drive from my purse and set it on the table between us. You really think we should use these? Do you want to win? I want the truth to come out. Then yes, we use them. She picked up the drive, turned it over in her hands. But Rosie, you need to understand, once we play these recordings, Keisha will know you've been documenting her for 2 years. There's no coming back from that. Even if we win, your relationship with your daughter may be over. I thought about that for a long moment. Thought about every Sunday dinner I'd cooked for her. Every midnight call when she needed advice. Every time I'd said yes when I should have said not this time. She already took my money, my grandbabies, my peace of mind, I said. What else I got to lose? Your daughter, I met Diane's eyes. I lost her the day she decided I was an ATM instead of her mama. We're just making it official now. Diane nodded slowly and put the USB in her briefcase. Okay then, let's finish this. We walked back to the courthouse at 1:25. The afternoon session would start at 1:30. I saw Keisha in the hallway talking on her phone. She was laughing about something. Actually laughing. Like this was just another day at the office. I wondered if she ever thought about the piano, the one I'd saved 11 months to buy her, the one she swore would make me proud. Probably not. We filed back into the courtroom. Judge Mendoza took her seat. Mr. Green, call your next witness. The plaintiff calls Dr. Patricia Nkomo, and here we go. Dr. Patricia Nakomo was a black woman in her 50s, natural hair in neat twists, wearing a burgundy suit and glasses. She had credentials coming out of her ears: psychiatrist, specialist in geriatric mental health, 20 years of experience. Malcolm walked her through her CV, establishing her as an expert. Then he got to it. Dr. Nkomo, did you have an opportunity to review medical records pertaining to Mrs. Rosalind Thompson? I did. What did you find? Mrs. Thompson is 63 years old with a documented history of hypertension, type 2 diabetes, and notations in her 2022 medical file indicating memory concerns. Her primary care physician noted she missed 2 appointments and seemed confused about medication dosing during one visit. In your professional opinion, doctor, are these indicators of cognitive decline? They can be. Early-stage dementia often presents with exactly these symptoms: missed appointments, confusion about details, memory lapses. Malcolm nodded gravely. Would someone experiencing these symptoms be capable of responsibly managing $67,000? I would have serious concerns about their capacity, yes. Thank you, doctor. Diane stood for cross-examination. She didn't approach the witness stand, just stood at our table, relaxed. Dr. Nkomo, you never actually met Mrs. Thompson, did you? No, I reviewed her medical files. Medical files from 2022, 2 years ago. You're not aware of her current condition? I based my assessment on the available documentation. Are you aware that Mrs. Thompson completed a master's degree in 2019 with a 3.9 GPA? I was not. Are you aware she's been managing Greater Hope Baptist Church's treasury for 18 years? A budget of $400,000 annually, with 0 discrepancies or concerns raised? I didn't have that information. So your expert opinion is based on incomplete information provided exclusively by the plaintiff's legal team. Is that correct? Dr. Nkomo shifted. I based it on the medical records provided. Doctor, have you ever missed a medical appointment? Yes, of course. Does that mean you have dementia? Objection, Malcolm called. Argumentative. Sustained. Diane switched gears. Let me ask you this. What percentage of 63-year-old women in America have hypertension and type 2 diabetes? I don't have exact statistics. It's approximately 40%, doctor. Should we declare 40% of American women over 60 incompetent to manage their own finances? Of course not. Then on what basis are you declaring Mrs. Thompson incompetent? Silence. No further questions. Dr. Nkomo stepped down. She didn't look as confident as when she'd arrived. Malcolm called one more witness, a neighbor who claimed I'd seemed confused when she saw me at the grocery store in February. Diane demolished her in 3 questions. Did you speak to Mrs. Thompson? No. Did you examine her medically? No. So you're testifying that she looked confused from 20 feet away in the produce section? By 2:45 p.m., Malcolm rested his case. Judge Mendoza looked at Diane. Ms. Porter, your first witness? The defense calls Yvonne Brooks. Yvonne walked to the stand in a lavender dress and sensible shoes. She was 71 years old, retired, and had been my friend since we met at Grief Support Group 6 years ago. Diane asked her, How do you know Mrs. Thompson? We met after her husband passed. Been friends ever since. We have coffee twice a week, go to church together, talk on the phone near every day. Does she seem confused to you? Forgetful? Lord, no. That woman remembers everything. She helps me remember my doctor's appointments. She's sharp as a tack. Has she ever mentioned her daughter or concerns about money? Oh, yes. Rosie worried all the time about whether she was doing enough for Keisha and those babies. Always asking herself if she should send more, do more. Woman gave until she had nothing left. Malcolm didn't even bother cross-examining. What was he going to do? Attack a 71-year-old church lady? Diane called Reverend Hayes next. He testified about my work with the church treasury, my mental acuity, my character. Then Diane said the words I'd been waiting for. The defense would like to enter exhibits D12 through D58, audio recordings of phone conversations between Mrs. Thompson and the plaintiff, Keisha Thompson Williams. Malcolm exploded out of his chair. Your Honor, we were not provided these recordings in discovery. This is ambush testimony. Diane's voice was steel. Tennessee Code Annotated Section 39-13-601 establishes one-party consent for recording. Mrs. Thompson was a party to every conversation. She had every legal right to record them. Furthermore, Tennessee rules of civil procedure allow for supplemental evidence when it becomes material to the defense. We only became aware these recordings were relevant after Dr. Nkomo's testimony claimed my client was incompetent. Judge Mendoza reviewed her notes. I'll allow it, but Ms. Porter, you'll introduce them judiciously. Choose your excerpts carefully. We don't have time for 47 recordings. Yes, Your Honor. Diane set up the audio player. The courtroom went silent. She played recording number 23 first. The date stamp said April 15th, 2023. The speakers crackled, then Keisha's voice filled the courtroom. Keisha. Mom, I need $3,000 by Friday. Me. Baby, I just gave you $800 last month for Isaiah's soccer. Keisha. Do you want to see your grandkids or not? Because Jamal thinks you're a bad influence. Keeps asking why you're so broke if you're supposedly good with money. Makes us look bad when you can't help. Me. Keisha, that's not fair. Keisha. Life's not fair, Mama. You taught me that. 3,000. Or you can explain to Amara why Grandma doesn't love her anymore. The recording ended. I glanced at the jury. The older black woman had her hand over her mouth. A white man in his 60s shook his head slowly. Diane played recording number 31, December 3rd, 2023. Keisha. The trust fund? Yeah, I took $8,000. It's my daughter's fund. I'm the trustee. I can borrow against it. Me. But baby, that money's supposed to be for her college. Keisha. And I'll pay it back. God, you act like I'm stealing. After everything you owe me for raising your granddaughter while you lived your best retired life? You got some nerve. Another recording. March 2nd, 2024, 2 weeks before Loretta's funeral. Keisha. Mom, if you don't help us with this down payment for the rental property, we're going to lose the deal. This is our future we're talking about. Me. Honey, I gave you my last $3,000 in January. Keisha. So what? You're just going to let your own family struggle? After everything we've done for you? All the times we've included you in our lives when we could have just moved on? Me. Included me? Baby, I'm your mother. Keisha. And you're acting like it's a privilege. Maybe we need some space from you for a while. By the time Diane finished playing 5 recordings, Keisha's face was ashen. Jamal was whispering to Malcolm urgently. 3 jurors were crying. Diane turned to Judge Mendoza. Your Honor, we have 42 more recordings with similar content. I can provide them all to the jury for review, or I can move on. I think we've heard sufficient examples, Ms. Porter. Continue. Diane nodded. The defense calls Amara Williams. The moment everything changed, the courtroom went silent. Completely, utterly silent. Keisha half stood from her chair. No, she's not. Malcolm grabbed her arm. Keisha, sit down. That's my daughter. Judge Mendoza's voice cracked like a whip. Ms. Thompson Williams, you will sit down and be silent, or I will hold you in contempt. Keisha sat, but her eyes never left Amara as my grandbaby walked to the witness stand. Amara was 18 years old. She wore a simple blue dress, her natural hair pulled back in a puff, no makeup except a little lip gloss. She looked so young and so brave. The bailiff swore her in. Her hand shook on the Bible. Diane's voice was gentle. Amara, please state your relationship to the parties in this case. Rosalind Thompson is my grandmother. Keisha Thompson Williams is my mother. Why are you here today? Amara took a breath. Because my mother lied to me. About what? She told me my grandmother stole my college fund, that Grandma was sick and confused and couldn't be trusted. She said I should stay away from her for my own good. When did you learn this wasn't true? 3 weeks ago. I was looking for my birth certificate in Mom's home office. I needed it for college enrollment. I found bank statements, lots of them, going back to 2018. What did they show? That in 2018, Grandma transferred $67,000 into a trust fund account for me. That was my grandfather's life insurance money, every penny of it. Amara's voice cracked. And starting in 2022, my mom started taking it out. $3,000 here, $5,000 there. By the end of 2023, she'd taken almost $42,000. Gasps from the gallery. Did you confront your mother about this? I tried. She said I didn't understand finance, that she was managing the money, that she'd put it back. But the statements show she never did. She just kept taking. Amara, when your mother told you your grandmother had stolen from you, how did you react? tears started rolling down Amara's face. I sent Grandma a text. I said terrible things. I called her selfish and a thief. I said I never wanted to see her again. She looked directly at me. I said I hated her. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. What did your grandmother say? She texted back, "Baby, I love you. If your mama needed that money, then it was worth it. You take care of yourself." That's all. No defending herself, no blame, just love. Diane let that sit for a moment. Why are you testifying today? Because my mom is teaching me that love means using people, that family means taking what you need and lying about it, and I refuse to learn that lesson. Amara looked at Keisha. I won't be like you, Mom. I won't. Malcolm's cross-examination was brutal. He tried to paint Amara as a rebellious teenager angry about being grounded. Tried to suggest she was siding with Grandma to get college money. Tried everything. But Amara held firm. Finally, he asked, Ms. Williams, do you realize you're destroying your family by testifying here today? Amara looked him dead in the eye. No, sir. I'm trying to save it. She stepped down and walked past her mother without looking, sat in the gallery behind me, put her hand on my shoulder. I reached up and held it. The defense calls Rosalind Thompson. I stood, walked to the witness stand on legs that felt like water. The bailiff held out the Bible. I put my hand on it, and I swear I felt Mama, Robert, Loretta, all of them, standing with me. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Diane kept it simple. Mrs. Thompson, why did you give your daughter so much money over the years? Because that's what you do when you love somebody. You help them. You make sure they don't struggle the way you did. You give them chances you never had. Did you ever expect to be repaid? No, ma'am. When you give from love, it's not a loan, it's just love. Do you regret helping your daughter? I thought about that. Really thought. I regret that somewhere along the way, my love became her entitlement. I regret that I taught her the wrong lesson about what it means to be family. I regret that I didn't say no sooner, before we got here. What would you say to your daughter now if you could? I looked at Keisha. For the first time since this whole thing started, I really looked at her. I'd say I'm sorry I failed you. I gave you everything except the one thing you needed most, the ability to hear no, and that's on me. But baby, what you're doing now, blaming me to cover your own mistakes, that's on you. Malcolm's cross-examination was designed to break me. Mrs. Thompson, isn't it true you're only here because your daughter chose her husband and children over you? No, sir. You're jealous of her success, her family, her life? No, sir. I'm proud of her. Or I was. Then why are you dragging her through this public humiliation? I looked at him, then at the jury. Because she's teaching my grandbabies that love means taking, that family means using people until they're empty, and I won't let that be their inheritance. I won't. So this is about revenge? No, sir. This is about truth. You really expect this jury to believe? I interrupted him. Diane had told me never to do that, but I couldn't help it. Mr. Green, I don't need them to believe anything. I brought receipts. I brought recordings. I brought bank statements. The truth is the truth whether they believe it or not. But I hope they do. Because if they don't, then I don't know what kind of world we're living in anymore. He had no response to that. I stepped down from the stand, walked back to my seat. It was 4:47 p.m. Judge Mendoza looked exhausted. We'll break for the day. Closing arguments tomorrow at 9 a.m., followed by jury deliberation. Court is adjourned. The gavel fell. Keisha rushed out of the courtroom without looking back. I sat there until the room emptied. Just me, Diane, and Amara. You did good, Grandma, Amara whispered. I held her close and cried into her hair. Tomorrow we'd know. Tomorrow the truth would either set me free or bury me. But tonight, I had my grandbaby back, and that was enough. I didn't sleep that night, not even a little. Amara stayed with me at my house, her first time back since March. We sat on the couch watching old episodes of The Golden Girls until 3 a.m., not really watching, just needing the noise to fill the silence. Around midnight, she fell asleep with her head on my shoulder, and I sat there frozen, afraid to move and wake her, memorizing the weight of her against me in case this was the last time. At 6 a.m., I got up and made coffee. Made enough for both of us, even though Amara didn't drink coffee yet. Just needed something to do with my hands. My phone buzzed. A text from Yvonne. Praying for you, Rosie. God's got you. Another from Reverend Hayes. Truth is louder than lies. Trust that. Nothing from Keisha. Not that I expected anything. Diane called at 7:15. How you holding up? I'm scared, I admitted. That's normal. But Rosie, you did everything right. You told the truth. You brought proof. Now we wait for 12 people to do the right thing. What if they don't? Then we appeal. But I don't think we'll have to. I saw their faces yesterday. They heard you. At 8:30, Amara and I drove to the courthouse together. She wore a Howard University hoodie, the school she'd be attending in the fall, thanks to the scholarship she earned all on her own. I wore the same navy blazer, the same pearls. Armor. The courtroom was packed. Word had gotten around. I saw church members in the gallery, Miss Alberta, the Hendersons, the whole deacon board. Saw some of Keisha's friends, too, sitting on her side, whispering behind their hands. Keisha arrived at 8:55 wearing all black, like she was at a funeral. Maybe she was. Maybe we both were. Judge Mendoza took the bench at 9 sharp. Counselors, your closing arguments. Mr. Green, you may proceed. Malcolm stood, straightened his tie, and addressed the jury with the same manufactured sadness he'd worn throughout the trial. Ladies and gentlemen, over these past 2 days, you've heard a lot of emotion, a lot of accusations, a lot of hurt on both sides. But I want to bring you back to the simple facts. He paced slowly. Rosalind Thompson is 63 years old. She has documented health issues. She missed medical appointments. She exhibited confusion. And yes, she gave money to her daughter over the years. But those were gifts, freely given. No one forced her. He paused at the jury box. What my client is asking for is simple: protection for her mother and for her daughter's education fund. The recordings you heard? A daughter frustrated because her mother kept forgetting conversations. The money transfers? An attempt to protect assets from someone who was no longer capable of managing them. My client loves her mother. She's trying to help her. This isn't about greed or manipulation. It's about a family in crisis and a daughter trying to do the right thing in an impossible situation. I'm asking you to see past the anger and the hurt and recognize that Keisha Thompson Williams is not the villain here. She's a daughter who loves her mother enough to do the hard thing. He sat down. Keisha nodded, wiping her eyes. Diane stood. She didn't move from our table, just stood there and looked at each juror, one by one. Mr. Green just asked you to see past the anger and hurt. I'm going to ask you to do the opposite. I want you to feel it, because that anger and hurt is evidence. She picked up the folder of bank statements. These aren't just numbers. Every one of these withdrawals represents a choice. Keisha Thompson Williams chose to take $3,000 while her mother was eating ramen noodles to save grocery money. She chose to take $5,000 while her mother was skipping her own medications to afford the $450 she sent every month. She chose to take $8,000, then turn around and sue the woman she took it from. Diane's voice was steel. You heard those recordings. That wasn't frustration. That was manipulation. Help me or you won't see your grandkids. That's not love. That's extortion. And when Mrs. Thompson finally said no, when she chose to attend her own sister's funeral instead of babysitting, the plaintiff didn't just get angry. She filed a lawsuit claiming her mother was incompetent. She let that sink in. Ladies and gentlemen, this case isn't complicated. A woman gave everything she had to her daughter. When she had nothing left to give, her daughter tried to take her dignity too. The evidence is clear. The recordings are clear. The bank statements are clear. The only question is whether you're going to hold Keisha Thompson Williams accountable for what she's done. Diane sat down. Judge Mendoza instructed the jury, explained reasonable doubt, burden of proof, all the legal language that made my head spin. Then she said the words I'd been dreading and hoping for in equal measure. The jury will now deliberate. We'll reconvene when a verdict has been reached. They filed out at 10:47 a.m., and the waiting began. 2 hours felt like 2 years. I sat on a bench outside the courtroom with Amara on one side, Yvonne on the other. Diane paced the hallway, checking her phone every 30 seconds, even though they'd call her when the jury was ready. Keisha and her team disappeared into a conference room. I caught a glimpse of her through the window, head in her hands, Jamal rubbing her back. Part of me wanted to go to her. Part of me always would, I guess. You can't just turn off 36 years of being someone's mother. At 12:15, Reverend Hayes brought us sandwiches from the deli. I couldn't eat, but I appreciated the gesture. At 12:50, Diane's phone rang. She answered, listened, then looked at me. "They're ready." My heart stopped. Already? Quick deliberation can go either way. Could mean it was obvious. Could mean they're split and someone folded. She squeezed my shoulder. Either way, we're about to find out. We filed back into the courtroom. I sat down and Amara reached over to hold my hand. Her palm was sweaty. Or maybe that was mine. Keisha walked in, saw Amara sitting with me, and something flickered across her face. Pain, maybe. Or anger. I couldn't tell anymore. Judge Mendoza entered. "All rise." We stood. "Be seated. I understand the jury has reached a verdict?" The foreman stood, a black woman in her 50s with gray locks and kind eyes. She was a librarian, I'd learned during jury selection, a grandmother herself. "We have, Your Honor." "Please read the verdict." The foreman unfolded a piece of paper. The room was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. In the matter of Thompson Williams versus Thompson, case number 2024-CV-8842, we the jury find in favor of the defendant, Rosalind Thompson. The courtroom erupted. Gasps, whispers. Someone behind me whispered, "Thank you, Jesus." I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Diane grabbed my hand. The foreman continued. Furthermore, we find that the plaintiff, Keisha Thompson Williams, has engaged in fraudulent misrepresentation and misappropriation of trust fund assets. We recommend this court refer the matter to the Davidson County District Attorney for potential criminal investigation. Keisha made a sound, something between a gasp and a sob. Jamal went pale, but the foreman wasn't done. Additionally, we find that the plaintiff's claims of the defendant's mental incompetence are without merit and appear to have been made in bad faith to support a fraudulent legal action. Judge Mendoza took the verdict form, reviewed it, then looked at both tables. The jury's verdict is entered into record. Furthermore, I am ordering the following remedies. Ms. Keisha Thompson Williams, you are ordered to repay the full sum of $67,000 to the Amara Williams Education Trust within 90 days. Failure to do so will result in wage garnishment and potential contempt charges. Keisha slumped in her chair. Additionally, you are ordered to pay $15,000 in court costs and legal fees to Mrs. Rosalind Thompson within the same time frame. Judge Mendoza's voice hardened. I am also issuing a protective order. Ms. Thompson Williams, you may not deny, restrict, or interfere with Mrs. Thompson's access to her grandchildren, Amara and Isaiah Williams. Violation of this order will result in contempt of court and potential modification of custody arrangements. She paused, looking directly at Keisha. Ms. Thompson Williams, I've been on this bench for 19 years. I've seen a lot of family disputes, but I have rarely seen someone weaponize the court system against their own mother the way you have attempted to do here. You took money meant for your daughter's future. When confronted, you tried to paint your mother as incompetent to cover your tracks. That is not just dishonest. It's cruel. As for the criminal referral, I am forwarding this case file to the district attorney. Whether they choose to prosecute is their decision, but the evidence of potential embezzlement and fraud is substantial enough to warrant investigation. She looked at me. Mrs. Thompson, I'm sorry you had to endure this. Your only crime appears to be loving your daughter too much. That's not a crime. It's a tragedy. This court finds in your favor on all counts. The gavel fell. It was over. Keisha sat frozen for a full minute. Then she stood, grabbed her purse, and walked out without looking at anyone. Not her lawyers. Not Jamal, not me, not even Amara. Just gone. Jamal hesitated, looked at Amara with something that might have been an apology, then followed his wife. People swarmed me, church members hugging me, crying with me. Diane shaking my hand, her eyes bright. You did it, Rosie. You actually did it. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. I'd won in court, but I'd lost my daughter. Those two things were both true at the same time, and I didn't know how to hold them together. Outside the courthouse, reporters tried to stop me. I waved them away. Diane gave a brief statement, something about justice and truth, but I couldn't hear the words over the ringing in my ears. I found my Mercury in the parking lot, got in, locked the doors, sat there alone while people walked past, celebrating or consoling, or just going about their lives like the world hadn't just shifted on its axis. My phone rang. Yvonne. Rosie? Baby, where are you? In my car. You okay? Was I? I didn't know how to answer that. It's over, I said finally. Did you win? The judge said I did. Doesn't feel like winning. That's because winning a court case and winning your family back are two different things. You won the first one. The second one's still out there. I don't know if I can get that one back, Yvonne. Then you don't, but you still got yourself back. And that's something. I sat in that parking lot for 20 minutes. Then I started the car and drove home. 3 weeks later, the story made the local news. Grandmother wins lawsuit against daughter in elder abuse case. They blurred our faces, but everyone in Nashville knew who we were talking about. The church had mixed reactions. Some people praised me for standing up for myself. Others whispered that I should have handled it privately, that airing family business in court was shameful. Miss Alberta, surprisingly, became one of my biggest defenders. That girl was bleeding her mama dry and y'all want Rosie to keep quiet about it? Nah, sometimes you gotta speak up, even when it hurts. Keisha didn't contact me, not once. But she did wire $67,000 back into Amara's trust fund on day 89, 1 day before the deadline. The $15,000 in legal fees came a week later. No note, no apology, just compliance. Amara moved in with me officially. We set up the guest room as hers, painted it yellow, bought her a desk for studying. She got a part-time job at the library and saved every penny for college expenses the scholarship didn't cover. Isaiah came to visit every other Saturday. Keisha would drop him off, wait in the car, then pick him up 2 hours later. We never spoke, just exchanged nods through the windshield like strangers. He asked me once, "Grandma, why doesn't Mommy come inside anymore?" I didn't know how to answer that. Finally said, "Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements that take a long time to fix, baby. But it's not your fault. None of this is your fault." Do you still love her? That one was easier. Every single day, even when it hurts. I used $40,000 from the repaid trust fund to pay for Amara's first year at Howard. The remaining $27,000 I donated to establish the Loretta Washington Memorial Scholarship Fund for underprivileged Black students in Davidson County. Seemed right. Loretta always said money should flow where it could do the most good. 4 months later, September came. Amara left for college. I drove her to D.C. myself, 9 hours in the Mercury with snacks and a playlist she made of songs she said I needed to know. We sang off-key to Beyoncé and Lauryn Hill. We stopped at a Cracker Barrel in Virginia where she ordered more food than she could eat, and I told her about when her granddaddy took me to my first year of college. "Were you scared?" she asked. Terrified, but excited too. Both things at once. That's how I feel now. When we got to Howard, helped her move into her dorm, I cried. Couldn't help it. "I'm so proud of you," I told her. "Your grandpa would be too." "Grandma, I couldn't have done this without you. The scholarship covers tuition, but you covered everything else. You fought for me when I didn't even know I needed fighting for. You would have done it anyway. You're stronger than all of us." Before I left, she said, "Do you think Mom will ever come around?" "I don't know, baby. I hope so. But even if she doesn't, you keep being you. Don't let our broken pieces cut you." I drove home alone, and for the first time in months, I cried for something other than pain. I cried because my grandbaby was free. Free from the cycle of using and taking and calling it love. Free to be her own person. That felt like winning too. 6 months later, March 2025, 1 year since Loretta died. 1 year since everything fell apart. I was at home making red beans and rice, Mama's recipe, when someone knocked on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. Yvonne was at her daughter's house. Reverend Hayes was at a conference. I opened the door. Keisha stood on my porch. She looked different, thinner, older. Her hair was natural now, pulled back in a simple ponytail. No makeup, no designer clothes, just jeans and a plain shirt. We stared at each other. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I stepped aside. She walked into the living room, the room where I'd rocked her as a baby, where we'd opened Christmas presents, where everything good used to happen, and she stood there like she didn't recognize it anymore. "I'm not here to apologize," she said finally. "Not exactly." "Then why are you here?" "Because Amara told me I needed to. She's been in therapy. Made me go too. Individuals and couples with Jamal." I didn't say anything, just waited. "The therapist asked me to describe my relationship with you. I said we were close. She said, "Were you close or were you dependent?" I didn't understand the difference. Keisha's voice cracked. Turns out there's a big one. She sat on the couch without asking. I sat across from her. I took you for granted, Mama. Worse than that. I used you. I told myself it was okay because you were my mother and mothers are supposed to help. But I wasn't asking for help. I was demanding it. And when you finally said no, I couldn't handle it. Tears ran down her face. Suing you was Jamal's idea at first. He was panicking about the missing trust fund money, afraid I'd go to jail, but I went along with it. I let them paint you as senile and confused because it was easier than admitting what I'd done. And that makes me sick. Why now? I asked. It's been a year, Keisha. Because I've been trying to understand how I became this person who would sue her own mother, who would steal from her daughter's future, who would threaten you with your own grandchildren. She looked at me. And I think I finally know. Tell me. You never taught me boundaries. You just gave and gave and gave until I thought that's what love was. You emptying yourself out for me. So I learned to take. And when you stopped giving, I didn't know how to function. I panicked. I lashed out. She wiped her eyes. I'm not saying it's your fault. My therapist is very clear about that. I made my choices. I'm responsible. But Mama, you taught me the wrong lesson about love. And I taught it to myself over and over until I couldn't see anything else. I sat with that for a long moment. You're right, I said finally. I did teach you wrong. I showed you that love means sacrifice without limit. That mothers don't get to say no. That family means giving until you break. I met her eyes. And I'm sorry for that. I can't undo what I did, Keisha said. I can't give you back the year we lost or the trust I broke, but I want to try something different, if you're willing. What's that? Start over, not as mother and daughter trying to get back what we had, as two adults who want to figure out what we could have, with boundaries, with honesty, with respect. I don't know if I can trust you again, Keisha. I know, and I don't blame you, but I'm asking for a chance to earn it back, slowly, on your terms. I looked at my daughter. The baby I'd loved from her first breath. The girl who'd broken my heart more thoroughly than I knew hearts could break. I'm willing to try, I said. But I need you to know something. I love you. I will always love you. But I will never again let that love make me small. You understand? She nodded. I understand. And if you ever threaten my access to those grandbabies again, we're done. Forever. Are we clear? Crystal. We sat in silence for a while, not comfortable, not healed, just there. The red beans smell good, she said finally. You hungry? Starving. I got up, ladled 2 bowls, brought them to the table. We ate together for the first time in a year. Didn't talk much, didn't need to. When she left, she paused at the door. Mama? Yeah? Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to. That's what mothers do, baby, even when it hurts. She left. I watched her car pull away. I didn't know if we'd make it. Didn't know if trust could be rebuilt from these broken pieces. But for the first time in a year, I had hope. The following Sunday, Reverend Hayes asked me to give testimony at service. I almost said no. I didn't want to be the broken family on display for the whole congregation. But then I thought about Amara, about all the young women in that sanctuary who were learning what love looks like. And I said yes. I stood at the pulpit in front of 300 people and told the truth. Some of y'all know I just came through a court battle with my own child. People have asked if I regret it. They say, Sister Rosie, that's your blood. How could you air your business like that? And I tell them, because that's my blood, I had to. The church went quiet. See, I spent 63 years teaching my daughter that love means sacrifice without boundaries. I thought I was being a good mother. Turned out I was just teaching her to be a good taker. What I didn't teach her, what I didn't know myself, is that love also means boundaries. That you can pour into somebody without drowning yourself in the process. That saying no doesn't make you selfish. It makes you honest. I gripped the pulpit. The Bible says honor thy mother and father, but it doesn't say let them dishonor you, and I had to learn that the hard way. I didn't take my daughter to court for revenge. I took her because my grandbabies needed to see that love without respect is just manipulation wearing a prettier name. I took her because truth matters more than keeping peace. I took her because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable somebody's worst behavior. My voice broke. They said I was just a confused old woman who didn't know what she was talking about. The judge disagreed, and so did the truth. The congregation stood, every single person, clapping, crying, calling out amen and preach. I saw Amara in the front row, tears streaming, pride shining in her eyes. I saw Yvonne and Reverend Hayes and all the people who'd stood by me when standing by me cost something. And in the back, slipping in late, I saw Keisha. She didn't clap, didn't call out, just stood there, tears on her face, watching. Our eyes met. I nodded. She nodded back. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. It wasn't reconciliation, not fully, but it was something. A crack in the wall we'd built between us. A possibility. And sometimes, possibility is enough. After service, Keisha waited by my car. "That was brave," she said. "That was necessary," I replied. "Can I take you to lunch? Just us?" I thought about it. Thought about the year of silence, the hurt, the betrayal. Then I thought about what Mama used to say. "Baby, you can't set yourself on fire to keep others warm, but you can sit with them in the dark until morning comes." "Lunch," I said. "But we split the check, and we talk real talk. No more pretending." "No more pretending," she agreed. We went to the same diner where she and I used to go every Sunday after church when she was little. Ordered the same thing we always did, chicken and waffles for her, grits and eggs for me. The conversation was hard, stilted, full of long pauses and uncomfortable truths. But we talked, and that was more than we'd done in a year. When we finished, she paid the check before I could argue. "Consider it the first installment on the debt I owe you, the one that's not about money." "You don't owe me?" "Yes, Mama, I do." I let her have that. 3 weeks later, she brought Isaiah to Sunday dinner at my house. The first time in over a year. We ate red beans and rice, Mama's recipe, the one I taught Keisha, the one she'd forgotten, the one we made together again from scratch. Isaiah asked, "Are we a family again?" Keisha and I looked at each other. "We're working on it, baby," I said. "It takes time to rebuild something that's been broken, but we're trying." "That's good," he said, satisfied, and went back to his cornbread. Sometimes the simplest truths come from the smallest voices. 2 years later, Amara graduated from Howard with honors. Keisha and I sat together at the ceremony, not holding hands, not whispering secrets, but together. Isaiah was 11 now, playing football, making good grades, coming to my house every other weekend. Keisha repaid every penny, not because the court made her, because she wanted to, said it was part of her healing. We had dinner once a month. Sometimes it went well. Sometimes we fought. Sometimes we sat in silence, not knowing what to say to each other, but we kept showing up. And that, I learned, is what rebuilding looks like. Not perfect, not pretty, just persistent. I'm 65 now. My knees hurt more. My memory's not what it was. But I'm not confused. I'm not diminished. I'm just a woman who learned, finally, painfully, that the greatest gift you can give someone you love is the truth, even when it costs you everything, especially when it costs you everything. They said I was just a confused old woman. The judge disagreed, and so did I.